button so that we have a recording. At least there are 4 people now, so it should be okay. Even if others don't join, I'm happy to sort of, get, okay, now we have people coming in. Yeah, we have. Is it finally 5:30 in India? Oh, yes,
Yep.
right.
One more minute.
Ooh, 1 more minute, cool. So that's good, yeah. Abid, good to see you. I'm sorry I missed the R in your email ID earlier, and so
Good
sent it
evening.
to some Abid
Good evening.
Masood
Good evening. How
who
are you?
doesn't have R in the email ID. And I
In fact, I
hope
was
that person
surprised.
doesn't get scared as to what kind of an invitation is that. I got to send an apology to that person, but I'll do that after the session, hopefully.
Sure. No, ma'am.
Sheetal, are you able to hear us?
Yes, Meenakshi. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Long time.
Time, my God. Yeah, I mean, ooh,
It was like 18 years,
I know.
I think.
Yeah, I think we'll just wait for another minute or two, given the Indian stretchable time that we are all aware of. And then, but even in the UK, we wait for at least 2 or 3 minutes before we start the session after, or 5 minutes, is it, Walid? Yeah. 1:05, we start the lecture, don't we? Hi, Amarnath. Good to see you. Yeah, you're on mute, so I can't hear you. When I start the presentation, you all can be on mute.
Okay.
And then I'll, open up the discussion. I don't have too many slides. It's not going to be, I want it to be more interactive. So while everybody's joining in, what I want you to do is use the chat option to say, in a very short possible way, why you want to do a PhD. What is the purpose of you wanting to do a PhD? So if you can just think, keep it ready to put in the chat option, that would be really helpful. Jayantada, thank you for joining. Can you hear us? Right. Yeah. Rupinder, thank you for joining as well.
Thank you, Professor Meenakshi. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invite.
I am not a professor as yet. I'm only Dr. Meenakshi Sarkar.
I stand corrected, Dr. Meenakshi.
But in this session, I'm only Meenakshi, so let's just stick with that. Yeah. Okay, I think we should get started. And God, this maneuvering this whole slides business online and everything is just another problem. Can you guys see the screen, which is do PhD?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, very good.
can everybody
Yeah.
see the screen? Okay. All right, so I'm going to, so in this session, it's, really because the reason why I did this session was I keep getting a lot of personal requests for a chat or for a discussion about understanding whether somebody should do a PhD or not, and if they want to do it, then how they want to, how should they be going about doing a PhD. I will tell a bit about, myself in the sense that, I never intended to do a PhD. I was a corporate person working with companies like Procter& Gamble, Bosch& Lomb, which is the Ray-Ban sunglasses company. And then I moved to Oriflame, HMV, which is Saregama India Limited at this point in time. And then finally, I moved to the insurance sector for about 11 years, working with companies like Max Newyork Life and MetLife. And that's when I think when I was, work in between jobs, I applied, my CV was sent to a very reputed American multinational company, but the head of HR, and this was for the head of learning and development, and I was already positioned as associate director learning and development and HR in my previous job. And this lady, she refused to interview me because I don't have a pedigree. And that because I don't come from IIMs or XLRIs or TIS or any such A-listed business school in India or abroad. That hurt me, but I was not defeated. I still ended up getting a job in a financial services company as senior vice president. But that the rejection somewhere affected me quite a lot. And I sort of decided that maybe, it's time for me to take a break and sort of do something about going back to the board or back to school to sort of somewhere understand how to raise some of the issues that I was passionate about in the workplace. The other sort of motivation for me was when I was in senior positions in companies, I would always see people sitting in boardrooms. The companies' names would change, the people's names would change, but the issues that we were talking about were largely the same. And while I was passionate about certain issues like, employee engagement, diversity, inclusion, or performance management, etc., but what I lacked was a scientific or an objective way to argue my case. And I realized my passion alone was not enough. I needed a theoretical backing. I needed evidence-based arguments to be made, which I did not have. So I sort of somewhere took these two thoughts into serious consideration. And I came to the UK to do my second master's in human resource management at the University of Leeds. It was while I was doing the master's master's course, and in a master's course you have to do a dissertation, which is a short research project which is mandatory for you to earn your master's degree in the UK. It was while I was doing my dissertation and my topic that I chose. So because I had all these, 19 years of experience before in human resource management and learning and development, I was somehow biased that if I choose any topic which is related to HR or directly related to learning and development, I myself would be a bit biased about that topic. So I wanted to choose a topic that would be unique and new. Second, because I was doing my dissertation here in the UK, I knew access to organizations would be very difficult. So I wanted to do a topic where I can have access to participants within the UK itself. So I then finally decided to do a dissertation to find out why a large number of British Pakistani men in the UK choose to drive taxis for a living. Was it a choice that they did it out of choice, or was it because of the many constraints they faced in the labor market to get standard jobs? So, I mean, although this was initially a fleeting thought, but when I shared this with my professors and my teachers here in the University of Leeds, everybody jumped at the idea, and they thought that this was a wonderful thing to do. So that's how I did my dissertation, and then I got a distinction in my master's, and finally I got the most outstanding international student award, both for my contributions while I was on the master's and the dissertation that I did, and that earned me a scholarship to come back and do a PhD. While it looks like a fairy tale, the journey was not very easy. And some bits of that journey and things that I reflected on, or when people ask me, should I do a PhD, then these are some of the things that I would really ask them to consider before doing one or committing to doing one. So the first thing that you need to, so the structure of the session will be, first and foremost, we'll try and find the purpose in terms of why you want to do a PhD. We'll look at some of the pros and cons of doing a PhD. We would obviously look at what to look for when choosing a PhD. And finally, I'll leave it open to questions and answers that you might have. Okay. So 10 critical questions to ask, before you embark on this journey. And I'm going to go through most of, all of these, in sort of one by one. But the first question is really, why do you want to do a PhD? Is it to raise your earning? Is it the prestige? Is it that, the doctor title? I won't be dishonest with you. One of the motivations for me when, that kept me going during the PhD process was the doctor title, because I remember one of my teachers, she was quite young. She used to teach us research methods. And she used to say that, when she finished her PhD, what she enjoyed the most was when she went to a bank or a similar institution and they would say, would it be Miss or Mrs.? And she would say it would be doctor. And so I think that is something that always stuck with me. I was quite, interested in that doctor title. So yeah, I have put that there. Sometimes people do a PhD because their parents want them to do. So is it because of parental aspirations? Or is it because of peer pressure? My friend did it, my colleague did it, so I want to do it. Or is it JLT, you just like collecting certifications? Or is it because you really want to learn something? And finally, is it because you want to create an impact with your PhD? Honestly, in the beginning, and that is the reason why it has been sort of kept in a certain order, you don't think about the impact of your PhD. Very few people think about the impact that they're going to do with their PhD before they have started. It's only when you start writing your proposal that, the element of learning and impact, etc., starts becoming important to you. But at this stage, I expect most of you would be somewhere, or there could be things that are not on this list. So here I would really want you to, just put in the chat box stuff that you think is motivating, you to do a PhD. So why do you want to do a PhD? And if it's all right, because it's sent to everyone, I'm just going to read out the answers that I've already got. So Amarnath says, I have a deep desire to explore the subject of HR development and make a significant contribution to this field. Other reasons are several members of my family have PhDs in chemistry. So it's a bit of peer pressure, parental aspirations, and the impact that you want to do. Rupinder says, to deepen my understanding and knowledge of the subject of human behavior in an organizational context. Also, I have this avid interest in reading, and also I'm intrigued how does research in this area can help solve some real life problems. Brilliant. Again, learning and impact, Rupinder. So, Rupinder, you are already called Dr. Rupinder Kaur. So, would you like to tell a little bit about your doctor title in terms of, do you already have a PhD? Is this going to be your second PhD, or is it something else that I'm missing?
So I'm a medical doctor by profession, Meenakshi.
Ah, okay,
So
all right.
yeah, that's it.
Are you practicing?
No, I left it 10 years back when I stepped into the corporate sector. So
Ah, okay. Interesting. Very interesting. All right. And then Sheetal says, I want to understand, learn more regarding change management in organizations. And I don't have answers from anybody else. Is there anyone who wants to just say instead of typing? Would you feel comfortable to just say?
Minakshi, I was looking at based on the current last assignment which I was doing on HR transformation. So I wanted to basically look at HR transformation and what are the things, new things which I can learn, and what is the impact on all those learnings, which probably
Okay.
can be applied to HR transformation. That's the way I was looking at it.
All right. Okay. Anyone else?
Meenakshi,
Meenakshi?
hi.
Sorry. There's a raise hand function if you want to use.
Yeah, sure.
Earning, learning, and prestige. Pankaj says that. Okay.
Hi, Meenakshi. This is Amarnath.
Yeah, Amarnath.
I'm doing an MBA program by assignment, and this requires me to write papers, which I've never written before. Um, and for that we have to research a lot. We have to research and consult and quote cite authors, scholarly authors, and this was something entirely new for me. And then I started reading, the research that these people have done, and I was really impressed by the depth of their knowledge and the depth of their research. The kind of empirical research that they do, the kind of um, the way they quote other researchers. It shows that they have, they explore far and wide. They read a lot, and this is something I want to do too, in a particular area.
Yeah, that's great. Sheetal, you had your hands up.
Am I on mute? Okay.
Yeah.
For me, Meenakshi, the last few years, the changes I've seen, obviously now we have COVID, but prior to that, how external and internal factors impact the bottom line in an organization, and at times how it impacts employees at different levels. So I am always intrigued. I do a lot of reading around change and how do you really make a difference being in HR for the people or for the organization. So that's where it drives me, that I want to really learn, understand, go deeper, and see what kind of learning can possibly be shared at a stage with the organization as a consultant also, to say that yes, this is what research shows, this is what companies have experienced in different industries, different markets. That's where my desire is. The core comes from.
Okay, that's good. Um, Jayantada, would you like to sort of say something to everybody? Are you comfortable doing that? Okay, Abid, you have raised your hand. You can go ahead next.
Eh, Yeah, yeah. So I am into learning and development for almost a decade now, and I have done my double masters also. And all three streams I've seen: finance, marketing, and HR, into learning and development. Now the next level is I have to enhance my learning, and I have to do my master so that it professionally also helps me. And for a long-term career, this would be definitely a great help.
Okay. So I think Joyantada's speaker has a problem, so I'm just going to read out something that he's sort of said. That he said that so Joyantada already has a master's from a UK university. I think it's Sheffield Hallam, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought he thought that while doing his dissertation, PhD was a natural, obvious follow-up action, since he was interested in small and medium enterprises, and it has also been his practice area in consulting, something that he wishes to pursue post retirement. Okay, sorry, not Sheffield Hallam, it's Sheffield University. So and therefore he is naturally inclined to do a PhD. Okay, so that's pretty good. Is there anybody else who wants to say, or are we good to go ahead? All right. So as you can see, there are, various sort of motivations for people to come into doing a PhD. Um, and the purpose really then defines what you will do, how you will do, and to what extent you're willing to sort of go in terms of following. I think it's important to have a link between or a balance between your academic and your career goals, and you really need to know, what is your short-term goal, what is your long-term goal. Maybe write them out, read them, reflect on them very deeply, as to, is this really so? For example, if you have a career goal, is PhD required for that career, for you to achieve that career goal? Because not every job requires, especially in the private sector, unless and until you're in an academic or research oriented field, or sometimes in consulting where a PhD might be required. Otherwise, most jobs don't require a PhD. If you're planning to work in Indian academic sector, then you'll have to not only do a PhD, but I think there are other exams that you have to give. And people who, I think it's called the NET exam in India. So you have to sort of pass that if you have to teach in an Indian university. So you'll have to really understand what that means. Second is, how does your current work experience relate to your future career goals or your interest in the PhD program? So is there a connection? Like, for example, if you look at my thesis about taxi drivers, it has nothing to do with the corporate world. But what it connects very deeply with is my passion about inequalities all around us. I think, it was only when I started digging deep into this issue that, of all the structural inequalities that surround us, I realized that I have always been passionate about inequalities and this whole concept of meritocracy, where people sell you this dream and illusion that, oh, if you study well, if you work hard, the world is going to be at your feet. No, not it is not that easy for everybody. Sometimes there are huge structural constraints. The access to the human capital or education, basics like education, or having the correct social network to get a proper job itself is so exclusionary in our societies that that was something that had always affected me, but that was very suppressed in my life or in my corporate world, because I was running a capitalist dream, working in corporates and working for my bosses and turning their dreams into realities. So I guess that is where my PhD really resonated with me personally more than my career. And then finally, the career goal that I resonated with in my PhD was, I love teaching, I love conducting sessions, I love being in the classroom with a bunch of people and facilitating alongside them, a joint group learning process. Yeah. So I think that was something that really motivated me to do my PhD, because I realized that would probably give me a chance in academia, and I would be able to make a difference to students' lives in a much more. That's an impact that so go mad is a life mantra that I go by, which is go make a difference. Yeah. So wherever you can, in whosever life you can, even if it's one person, I believe if I can make a difference, I have, I can sleep in peace for that night or that evening or that particular day. So that was the connection that I had. Then, if you've already got a master's degree or you have other educational credentials, do they relate and support your career goals or your academic skills required to do a PhD? So, that is something that you might like. My first master's was in English literature, and I knew it is not going to help me. And it was way back in 1997 when I finished my master's. So I knew that that would not help me to go into a PhD straight away. That's the reason why I did a master's first, and then I went into a PhD. So that is something that you might have to consider as well, that in terms of academic skills, because doing a PhD in the UK and or a master's in the UK and doing one in India is very, very different. So Amarnath, as you were saying, that you are quite impressed or in awe of how people write, citing and researching. Trust me, in the UK, when I did my PhD, for every single line that I wrote, I had to read up at least 2 or 3 articles, see if what I'm making a point is either supported by others or thwarted by others. If possible, I'll try and show you just my introduction paragraph of my thesis, and you will see how many citations are there, just to make or convince people that I'm making a valid sort of point. I have read a couple of master's dissertations and undergrad dissertations of students from Indian universities, and sometimes I'm appalled because a citation is something that is just not looked into in those universities. I might be wrong, I might be making a huge assumption here, but I have read, as of last year's thesis presentations by undergrad and master students, and they don't cite at all. And so that is something that's a huge difference that you will find. Then, okay, so if you've answered all those questions and you feel, no, yes, I want to, okay, there's one small caveat I want you all to know. Because this Zoom account is my personal account, so which I'm using, there might be you might be logged out of it. You have to use the same link to log in again. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah?
Yes.
We might be logged out because it's showing me time remaining 9 minutes 24 seconds. So after 9 minutes, we might be logged out, and then you might have to log back in right again, unfortunately. Yeah, I tried to upgrade this last night, but for some reason I couldn't do it. So we'll have to live with this glitch for now. Okay. Second comes choosing the right program. Where do you want to study? Like Praveen was asking this question in the beginning, that, does he have to move here, or can he do it online? I mean, honestly, pre-COVID, all PhDs had to be on campus in the UK with the university. The Open University is, I think, probably the only university in the UK which offers an online PhD. But that, so you can have a look at that, but I'm not sure how they deal with international students and stuff like that. But in the University of Leeds or other Russell Group universities or other post-92 universities here in the UK, most of the PhD is on campus. And this year, because of the COVID, while none of your lectures, etc., which happen in the first year will happen face to face, so they will all happen online, but your supervisions, etc., will could be done online through Zoom calls. So this year could be I would say an aberration in what is otherwise normally a face-to-face sort of study. It's also important to look at what discipline you're looking at. So which school you want to choose within the university. So every university will have different schools, like the business school, the school of education, the school of sociology and social policy, school of medicine, school of whatever else. And then they also have certain research centers. So like within the business school, there might be various research centers. So depending on what your research interest is, you might have to look at the website of the universities to find out which discipline or which school suits your research the best. And we'll talk about this a little bit more details a bit later. Finally, it's also important to see what facilities does the university offer their doctoral candidates. Like there is a huge variety within the UK itself in terms of the kind of facilities they give. For example, the University of Leeds sort of used to give about £3,000 per PhD student as a budget for the student to invest in conferences. So whether it's traveling to various international conferences or presenting your work while you're doing your PhD, or field work reimbursement, or sometimes to buy membership of certain institutions for social networking. That was, I think, a huge sort of bonus for us, because when I spoke to students from many other universities, they did not have this sort of plus point. So I think that is something that might be, but of course these things might again get revised, the policy, because of the current COVID situation and the ban on travel, etc. But because a PhD is a long process, and this £3,000 is from the start of your PhD until you finish it, so you can sort of use it the way you like it, and you can sort of wait for this wave of the COVID pandemic to sort of go away until you start. Okay. And then so on this slide, I'm going to sort of, because we have about 5 minutes left. After this slide, I would request you all to please leave the session and then log in once again, because this is a good place to take a break. So again, what real world problem are you set to solve, and who will be benefited by your research? So in terms of, think about your research interest and the impact, because you will have to write a statement of purpose or a statement of research interest or a proposal if you intend to apply. So have you read up about your area of research? Are you aware of any specific theories or models of interest? We have 40 seconds. What will you use to guide your research focus? Are there particular authors, particular disciplines? Is there a preferred research methodology that you're aware of? And or, what is your research methods worldview? Yeah. And so, those are things that, you might be interested. Oh, I think we got an automatic upgrade, did we? No. Okay. It just shows a few more extra minutes, so that's fine. All right. So yeah, I think this is important, although I would say when you write your PhD proposal, you have a very vague idea. And obviously in the first 1 year, your proposal is going to go through a sea change because you will get the space I think one of the beauties of the PhDs, it gives you that space where you don't have the hassles of thinking about your job, thinking about, anything else, and you just sit, declutter your mind and think, focus. It's like meditation, where you're sort of thinking just about your research area, your research interest, your research question. Formulating the research question itself is a research in itself. So picking your topic itself is a research, and I would highly encourage you, to sort of consider that. I will try and share a video that I created for my master's students, called How to Narrow Your Research Topic. Although it is aimed at master's students for their dissertations, but I think it might be helpful just for you to, give you food for thought in terms of how you want to pick, narrow down your research topic. Like, for example, if you say, I am interested in, people development or learning and development, that's a very broad area. How do you bring that down to one specific problem, a real world problem that you're trying to? Somebody said HR transformation, so I don't know, what do you mean by HR transformation? Is it, the inroad of artificial intelligence in HR and how that is changing HR, for good or for bad in the future? Will HR be relevant anymore? Will robots take away jobs in HR? What impact will, digitalization have on jobs? I think in the current pandemic situation, a very interesting thing has come up. While working from home was considered a flexible, thing, and aimed at giving women more empowerment in the world of work, it turns out in the pandemic that working from home has actually affected women most adversely. And they are the ones who have really faced the burnout of working from home, because the lines between the compartment of home and work has completely smashed. So while I'm doing this session, I'm also worried what is going to be for lunch in the afternoon. Am I going to have time to, sort of put the laundry out? Oh, the sun is out, I think I need to put the laundry out. And so somewhere, and with children not going to school and being at home, and parents having to attend online classes with their children, I think this whole flexibility concept has turned an ugly face in the current pandemic situation. So I'm sure there would be huge amount of research now starting on how the pandemic and how working from home has actually affected different genders. All right. And another very, very, very key, I can't stress on this enough, is who will mentor you through your PhD program. I mean, I can't say how important it is for you to have the right advisor, right supervisor, because a wrong supervisor can completely ruin your experience of doing a PhD. I was extremely blessed to have two very wonderful supervisors, and they really transformed me from a novice, disillusioned corporate person to the academic that I am today. And I owe every bit of my academic success to those two ladies who were my supervisors, Professor Jane Holgate and Professor Gabrielle Alberti. So I think that's extremely important. Sometimes you might want to look at, are they experts in your field? So in my case, none of them were experts in the area that I was researching, but they were experts in the area of migration or issues faced by ethnic minorities. So nobody had done research on British Pakistani men before. That was also the uniqueness of my research, which earns me a lot of accolades wherever I go to present. But it is also So I couldn't find experts in that field, but I could find people whose research I could draw on, and they gave me an absolutely free hand to choose what kind of theoretical underpinning. So I was not forced by my supervisors that you have to cite my work or you have to, sort of use the theories I have done. So I was really blessed. Sometimes you do have supervisors who will push you to cite only their work or their theoretical or further their research agendas. I would say be very careful. So it is always nice to read the kind of work that people whom you're considering as potential supervisors read, see what kind of work they have written or published, and maybe if you go on websites of universities, you will find the names of the PhD students they are currently supervising. So you can also connect with those students to say that I'm considering a PhD in your department. So I wanted to have a chat with you about what it is like to do a PhD in your university. And then in the matter of chatting, you can always find out from them what was their supervision experience like. You can also connect with the supervisors directly to see if your research fits into their research interest or their wider research program, and if they would be willing to sort of support your application for the PhD or not. In the UK, normally, if you're not an internal student, you would have to go through an interview process. So you submit a proposal, that proposal is sent to the potential supervisors. And then even if you send it directly to this, potential supervisor, the supervisor will send it to the central PhD office, and then interview is arranged with one external person in the interview, and they appraise your application or your proposal, ask you questions around why you're interested in this, how much have you read, how much have you understood this already, because the assumption in the UK when you're starting a PhD is you should already have certain academic understanding of your research topic. Yeah. If you do not have that, then I would highly recommend doing what I did, which is doing a master's first and then doing a PhD. Because the master's really grounds you into the academic conventions, into what is required of an academic in the UK. And I can tell you it's extremely, although there is a hell and heaven difference between the quality of master's writing and PhD writing, but still at least the master's is a good foundation to start with. Big question, finance and funding. So how are you planning to fund or finance your PhD? Because scholarships are extremely competitive. Even I got the scholarship, although I was a distinction, holder. I got an award for being the most outstanding international student. It was my professors who pushed me to apply for a PhD. Still, I did not get it in the first. I did not get it in the first round. Sorry, is there somebody's? I did not get through in the first round. I only got through the scholarship in the second round. Also, to be very honest, the reason why I got the scholarship was because my topic was relevant to the UK. It was very unique and innovative. And it was something that the business school, from where I got the studentship, so the business school was keen to publish this under their name. So the scholarship consideration is a lot many things. So you might want to understand why should a British university fund your project, what's in it for them. So think, very honestly and brutally about that. or think who is the other funder. So is there an Indian funding organization, or if you're from the Middle East, can you get funding from there? Or apply for other, like the, scholarship from the Commonwealth countries. So there are a couple of, every university website will give you more insights into what is the funding opportunity available. And so I would encourage you to have a look at that. But my own experience is scholarships are really, really, really hard to get by. I was very lucky, A, because of my topic, B, because I was just lucky, I guess, that I got this scholarship. I know it was very, very, otherwise, very difficult. It's also important to rope in your family, because I think a PhD calls for a huge sort of commitment. If you're a full-time PhD, you will not get the time to do a job and a PhD. If you're planning to do part-time, and in the UK, I don't know if they're going to allow international students to do part-time, but under the COVID circumstances, that might be a possibility. But I don't know if any of you is interested. I can sort of query on behalf of you to do a part-time PhD. So we will have to find out. But I would say, a part-time PhD is like it takes about 7 years. I don't know if you want to be with this topic, with one topic for 7 years. As it is, the PhD takes, the official time in the UK is 3 years, but I think eventually people take about 4 years to complete a PhD. So are you willing to, is your family willing to support you for 4 years? Is a question that you might want to ask. Thankfully, my family did. So I moved to the UK with my son and my husband. And I think although my husband has grown up in a traditional patriarchy, in terms of what it means to be the man of the house, but I think he really, really brought himself a long way to support my PhD. I wouldn't have been able to do this without him. And in the UK, there are no maids, there are no, helping hands. From hoovering your house to doing the dishes to the laundry, everything has to be done by you yourself. You don't get cleaners or people to come and do that for you. So I think I would, I can't stress enough the importance of the support from your family. Finally, I have had questions from people where they said, do you think I can do this at this age? Is this the right time? I really doubt if, there is any right or great answer to this question. If you've decided you should only do a PhD, if you really, really, really want to do a PhD and you have good reasons to pursue it, that's the only way to finish. So commitment, I always keep joking, but I say this: masters is like having a fling or a love affair, okay? But PhD is marriage, boss. So if you want to do a PhD, you really have to commit to the relationship, and that's the only thing which is more important, which is committing to finish the PhD is more important than starting one. um, uh, some more considerations. I will share this presentation with you also. It's not, something that you need to. So, who's going to write your letter of recommendation? Because you need 2 letter of recommendations for your PhD. Who are at least the 3 individuals? So I think 1 academic recommendation. Sorry, you need 3 recommendations: 1 academic and 2 practitioners who are going to write your academic reference and your practitioners reference. So who are going to be those people? Your maths and English language ability will be tested. So maths will not be formally tested, but they will look at your background in terms of what you scored in maths. English language will be tested through IELTS. Maths is also important if you plan to go into quantitative methods in your PhD, so that will become extremely important. So do think about that. And that was a bit about certain things that I thought these are common questions people ask, and I wanted to, sort of just share some of these things with you. And now I'll just look at the chat box to see if, yeah, okay. Amarnath has asked, I understand one of the challenges of a PhD is to find a proper guide. Is there a process by which one searches and finalizes a PhD guide? As I said, the first thing, Amarnath, for you is to find out who is in the area of your research, who is already doing similar or research related to your area. Try and read about their work, which universities they are, based in. Um, and it's absolutely okay to write to them saying that this is a bit about myself, this is my background, this is what I'm interested in to research. But before you write to them, research your topic well. Don't just abruptly write, okay, I want to do a PhD in this area and I want to do, because people don't have that kind of time to sit and go through doing the whole process of helping you narrow your research topic for you. You need to do pre-research before you apply for the PhD. Okay. So I think that would be extremely important. Praveen, yeah, I will definitely find this out for you. As I said, for the COVID situation, this could be an option. If you had asked me this question in January, I would have straight away said no. But because of the current pandemic, you might be lucky. There might be a possibility to do this. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You have to research your own specific area of research. I think Google Scholar is a great, place to start researching, because Google Scholar. So if you search on Google Scholar, and because many times as non-academics you might not have access to certain academic publications, because they keep them only if there is an institutional access to it. So in case you don't have, look for articles where next to the article there is a PDF version of the article already on Google Scholar. So that means that it is a free to download article, and you can download it from Google Scholar, and you would be able to then read those articles, and sort of incorporate that and see if that is something that's going to help your proposal writing. Any other questions?
Can I add something, Mina?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, regards just to the point that you mentioned, that we need to look at the area that we feel that there is something ambiguous about this, and we can find something new. So as you know, I was thinking to do my PhD, the same topic as my master's, the unconscious bias training, and you advised me that to go to the field work, and then after going, you will find something, and then you might change your mind. And since I start working here as an employment advisor for refugees, and especially Syrians, and now I'm reading on this topic, something related to migration and refugees. And yeah, you are completely right when you said that going indeed to the work field, you will just open your eyes to new areas, or let's say more interesting areas. So yeah, I think reading and keep digging to the topics, you will find something that like catch you and say like, yeah, look at this topic.
Yeah, in fact, I think so. Walid is actually one of my previous master students, and he now works in the area of employment for refugees in Leeds with a charity. I especially for people, Walid also, this is his second master, so he has a master's in education, and then he did a master's in human resource management. A very, very committed student, I would say. And one of my favorites because he always participated rigorously in all the debates in the classroom. And I used to, on purpose, set them up with provocative assignments to discuss and talk about. So, he used to jump right in to say, no, this can't be like this kind of thing. So, yeah, that used to happen quite a lot. So I think when you're starting out, as I said, you are going to initially, the theories that I had in mind when I started my PhD on the taxi drivers were very, very different from what I ended up using. But from a proposal perspective, I think what they look for is, do you have the ability to research something and write about it, turning it into a proposal? It might be absolutely, you know, this is recorded, but it's absolutely might be the wrong. I was going to use the word shit, but yeah, no, I'm not using it. So it might be absolutely wrong theory that you are sort of thinking about at this point in time, and that's fine. But have you read both sides of the argument for that particular theory? Have you read the people who support that theory? Have you read also people who critique that theory? And have you then been able to synthesize that knowledge into your proposal to say why you still choose to use that theory? That is what we are trying to look for in proposals. That do you have the academic bent at least? Can you be molded into an academic doing a PhD is what really we look for in proposals. Yeah.
Hello, Meenakshi.
Yeah.
Hi. I understand, even after doing a master's, you're way off before even making a proposal for a PhD thesis. Is it something that, is this homework, formal, or is it something that we have to do completely on our own to demonstrate our seriousness? Or should we look for some friendly advisors who can help us, see through these options. For every theory out there, there's somebody debunking it, or not just critiquing it, but debunking it. All right, and since it's all material at the forefront of our knowledge, you won't find very many people who are participating in this or have an opinion on this.
Okay. I made another video. So the COVID has actually, sort of pushed me to my limits of my teaching ability. So I made another video on how to do a literature review. Okay. So literature review is when you learn to situate or join the conversation in the academic field in your area as to what is it that others are saying. So, for example, if I were to move into, let's say, HR transformation, I would like to read a bit about Dave Ulrich's work, who spoke about HR as a business partner. Or if that's not the area that I'm looking into, I might look into artificial intelligence and look at current scholars and current institutes or research centers looking at how is AI affecting HR as a function. So then I will try to read. Now, your question is, who will tell me if it is right or wrong, right? Is that your question, if I understood it correctly?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah. So
Am I on the
there
right
is
path?
no, see, most of the PhD, you are not doing a PhD in natural sciences. So you're not there to prove whether the, element A when reacts with element B is always going to provide a compound which is C. All right. You're not doing that. You are doing research in social sciences where there are no right answers. If I tell you the theoretical underpinning of my research, some of you might be convinced and say, yes, Meenakshi, perfect. I think I agree with you. And there might be few others who will say, no, I think it's bullshit. And it's absolutely okay. You have to learn to live. What we are trying to do in PhDs or in academic research is encourage these healthy debates, so that knowledge is not, so it should not be like one person because of their authority telling you, because it's Harvard Business Review to theek hi hoga. No, boss, it is not like that. Even if it's Harvard Business Review, it's written by a human being who has biases, who has their own value systems, who might be writing from a completely white Western perspective, and it might not be valid for a no, ethnic minority like me. So I'm going to question that Harvard Business Review article, and that is what is encouraged in a PhD for you to do.
I
But
have I subscribed to Harvard Business Review about 2.5 years ago. I do quote them in many of my papers, and
okay,
I say they're not just positing anything lightly. They're always conducting research, and they're quoting results from their research. They're saying we, for example, researched 512 companies on this
brilliant.
aspect and that aspect. So unless
Okay.
I see such evidence, I do not really want to quote them. If somebody's just
So my request to you would be, within Harvard Business Review, let's say you've read the article by Professor A, okay, and Professor A says, um, he makes a statement and he justifies it with data, with research, with everything sounds extremely convincing to you. Now I would encourage, keep that on one side. Now look for people who have critiqued that Professor A and
understand.
his theory. Push yourself to do that on purpose. And then read Professor B's critique of Professor A. That's when you will say, oh boss, ये तो सही बोल रहा है, ये तो बी का क्रिटिक भी मेरे को सही लग रहा है. A तो मेरे को convincing लगा था. I was convinced with A, but I think B is also convincing now because he's critiqued. Yeah. And then you look at both of them and maybe look at C and D and E, and then you make an informed choice. You say, and then you tell us in your proposal, I looked at A, I was impressed or convinced, but then I looked at B, I looked at C, I looked at D, and I realized there are these shortcomings in A which he has not addressed in his in his research. While his basic research is fine, but there are gaps. That's what we call filling the gaps or identifying the gaps in academic knowledge.
Yeah, I do understand that, Meenakshi. I
So
have quoted some research, where I have produced some text for listing out the pros of the concept and some the cons. And I could afford to leave it at that because it was just a paper. We are not supposed to do any research, but rather quote what is out there and assimilate, that knowledge onto 3 or 4 pages. So that's fine. Years ago, I read Dave Ulrich, and he this was his book was on including HR in the accounting books. He said HR is an asset, and while most companies consider them as costs and liabilities. And he went on to, I think he was at the time researching a great deal on the concept of how to show human resources as a positive asset on the balance sheet. So yes, I do understand. If I want to say go further along that line, I would have to read his research, read his peers, and find out what they have done, what has been done till now, and then how can we add to this,
I
mammoth.
mean, in India, everybody must be aware of Maslow. Yeah,
Right.
Maslow's theory of needs, psychological needs and physiological needs and all that stuff. Now that theory was written in 1940s. Okay, what has happened to that theory till now? I mean, I know organizations in India who still teach Maslow's
Oh
theory of
yes.
need as the fact or the truth. But so much water has flown under the bridge in
Agreed.
the time from 1950s till now. So where are you? Are you updated on that theory in terms of what is currently being said about that theory? Is it still the pyramid? Does the pyramid stand? Or there are people who have questioned that no, it's not a pyramid, it's a continuum. People can be up and down in that continuum in various stages of their life or phases of their life. How relevantly is it being used by organizations? What about the two-factor theory, Hertzberg's theory? So you if you're coming into this, you have to, जिसको बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में बाल की खाल निकालना.
Correct.
PhD is getting into this nuanced discussions about what is that word you have used, why you have used, what is the sort of reason, justification behind that. Sorry, I have another question from Varuna. She says, I have an MBA from India. I do not want to do another master's, both due to time and financial commitment. What might this translate into preparation that I need to do before I apply? Varuna, how long back did you do your MBA? Could you share that with us? No? Okay. Yeah, it depends on how long back you've done your last academic and how much you want to, like mine was, I came to the UK in 2012 and my last academic intervention was in, 1997. So I definitely knew that I would not be able to do a direct PhD. I would want to do a master's. And I think I think I'm happy that I did a master's because, as I said, it gave me a good grounding for my PhD. I have seen people who have come in from, the corporate and then into a PhD without undergoing a master's again, and they do struggle a bit in the initial uh, sort of first year or so. But I think, yeah, I mean, it really depends on how committed you are and how much you're willing to jump straight right in your first year and make up the difference, because the first year is really like a bit of a repeat of the masters, especially in terms of research methods and academic writing skills. So it is a possibility. There is a question, do we have to do a pre-test before submitting the area of interest? If you get no, you don't have to do any of that. So you can do, you don't have a pre-test, but you will have an interview. So you might want to look at that. Yeah. Anything else? So, like, I think this question might have come because I think in the US you have to give a GRE, but UK doesn't require you to do any such GMAT or GRE or anything like that. Yeah, DMAT, I think in the UK. US is mandatory, but not here. Are there academic classes covering the prerequisites of the subject? No, there will be academic classes on research philosophies, research methods, quantitative and qualitative methods. And there will be one thing, so like our university has something called understanding your discipline. So there are some classes done around the broader topics and debates in your area of research, but you wouldn't get any classes pertaining to particularly your area. You wouldn't get that.
Meenakshi, are there any intermediate submissions before your final submission? I do you go for the big
Yeah,
bang or
yeah. So there is a transfer submission at the end of year one. Everybody will have to, go through that transfer. Till that time, you're actually on probation in your PhD. Even if you've got a scholarship, you're on probation till your transfer. And only if you successfully pass your transfer in the first year, then you can go on to complete your PhD. 90% of the people pass their transfers, but there are always the 10% who struggle. Then they are given an extension of 6 months to resubmit their transfer document. Somebody has asked me what cost will be involved. Really depends on which university you're going to. Russell Group universities are always a costly affair if you're a self-funded candidate. I think our university is currently about £15,000 a year for
19, Mina.
3 years. Sorry?
19 something.
19, have they increased it? Holy Christ. Okay,
Yes.
so £19,000 per year for a PhD, and that's for 3 years. The fourth year, you don't have to pay the fees. If you run into your fourth year, then you just have to pay, I think, about £400 to £500 to keep accessing the facilities, but you don't pay anything in the fourth year. But 3 years, you will have to pay the full fees, which is
Is it a
£90,000.
fair question to ask you, Meenakshi, what would be living expenses for somebody who's doing it on campus
Uh, if that depends, are you going to come alone or are you going to come with your family?
alone?
Alone. So if you're planning to come alone, I think I mean, I would say what even on a very shoestring budget, you should account for about £800 to £900 per month.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would include a campus accommodation.
Yeah, but remember, campus accommodation for PhDs are very hard to get because the first preference is given to, undergrads, then masters, and then PhD students, and you don't get it in the campus. So PhDs are given, so you have hostels all around the city. I mean, dorms or university accommodations. I would say it's always cheaper to stay private near the university, and there are loads of student letting services. Even university student letting services are available. They're called Unipol. You can use them, or you can use private landlords, depending on which city you're going to finally.
And how do you find transportation between home and the university? Is
Public
it
transportation here is very good. It's not like
okay?
India. You don't have to go on buses and go.
Right,
So
right.
it's very, very, well connected, most of the universities. Yeah.
I do know that the UK is a very expensive place. In fact, one of the most expensive places to live. So, cost of housing, cost of transport,
There's
cost
a
of
difference. So London is the most expensive place to live. Leeds is not. Leeds is the second biggest city, but Leeds gives you the best of both worlds. So you get all the facilities of a large city without the hustle bustle of London and without the prices of London. So the house that I live in, this is a 4-bedroom house, and I pay about £780 for this. And a similar house in London would be about £2,000 or £2,200 in central
okay,
London.
okay.
So just to give
Thanks.
you a perspective.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah. Okay. So unlike the US, where everybody has to drive, do you have to drive?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
The UK is such a small island.
You can walk
2 hours
everywhere.
if you keep 3 hours if you keep driving, you will be in the sea somewhere. So you can't drive for long in the UK in any case. 10 minutes
Right.
drive, you'll be out of Leeds. You'll be in the neighboring city. So it's not a very, I mean, it's not like Gurgaon, Noida, where you have to travel for 2 hours driving. And yeah, I mean, people do travel from Manchester to Leeds, etc. But the trains, etc., are available and they're quite comfortable. So it's pretty okay that ways.
Yeah, I actually spent 4 days between London and Edinburgh at one time, and I know the cost of leaving my luggage at the airport was about £100. Really,
Yes. Yeah.
it can be expenses can kill you.
See, there is no contingency in this country. Even if you die, you have to wait when the funeral service is going to be available for you to be laid, for you to be rested in peace. You cannot die on a weekday and expect people to come and attend your funeral. It's as blatant, as brutal as that. This country where there is no emergency. That is the reason why they failed miserably when the COVID-19 happened, because they need everything 6 months, 1 month, 1 year planning. They're not like Indians, ki, okay, all right, let's just do this, let's just jump into it. They don't have that concept at all.
Specifically in the public health system, where I understand you have to wait your turn, sometimes for
Yeah,
months.
yeah. I mean, they have okay, for the people of this country, the public health system is free. For people like us, we have to pay the health surcharge, which was started in 2015. I think for students, it is now £300 per year. For people like me who have completed, so I'm on a tier 2 visa, so I pay £400, and it has been suggested that it should be increased to £600, £675 per year. But I hope I don't have to do it, and I can just get my final tier 2 extension, because I just have one more extension to do, and then I'm good for the indefinite leave to remain. So
So for a student, for a PhD student, how much do they have to budget for towards?
£300 per year for your health surcharge.
Okay, okay.
PhD is equivalent to tier 4. So whatever is the tier 4 visa norms, that is what you will have to go for.
Okay, that's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think it was good fun. If there is any more questions, Ishita has a question. She's done an MB in 2011 and a law degree in 2020. She wants to do a PhD program in 2022. I want to prepare myself beforehand. Wow, that's lovely. What are the areas wherein I have to prepare myself to have a success in getting the admission? I would say start reading academic publications in your area of research, and look for various perspectives. In fact, if you wish to do it in UK, try and read papers from British writers, but it always helps to read from other countries as well. But I would say do read the British papers to understand the academic conventions here in UK. They're quite different from many of the American ones. UK and America always have this love-hate relationship. So sometimes some of the conventions acceptable in America are not acceptable in the UK. So I would say if you plan to do it in the UK, then start preparing reading. I will send you a couple of links in my mail after this call, which I only will be able to send you late tonight.